Is that one of the officials? Very much it's here. Happy to the award, I'm sure. It's about shooting. It's a video. Let's go, perfect. Yeah. Yes, 500. What about that?
I want you to ride it.
No, you're not there.
You've seen that before?
Have I? Oh, there it is. Brilliant. Amazing.
What?
Absolutely amazing thing.
What are you doing?
I got paid up. I wish you was this.
Here, I've got
That's good, mate, isn't it? What a brilliant job. Yeah, well done. That is something else, isn't it?